Nothing will stand in our way because we are Americans. The future is ours.
Second chances don't come much bigger than this.
The golden age of America begins right now. We have an opportunity to change the fabric of our country.
Tonight, a look inside the first 100 days of the presidency.
You're gambling with World War III.
That shook the world.
They charge us, we charge them. I'd like to see Canada become our 51st state.
In the first 100 days, Trump has burned through decades of goodwill, trust, and reliance that America has built up over the years.
All hell is going to break out.
So, is the most powerful person on the planet?
No, we're not going to put up with that crap anymore.
A mastermind?
Don't get angry. Donald, don't get angry, please.
Or a madman?
I couldn't stand it!
Maybe it's a breath of fresh air that the world needs, a dose of realism.
Why massive upheaval
$100 billion wiped off the ASX
was always part of Donald Trump's deal.
We put ourselves in the driver's seat.
U.S. leadership isn't going to be about values, it's going to be about power.
Cause you know that I'm a boss.
And what the world's greatest showman
He is the master of mass distraction.
has got planned.
He really wants to go down as a historically great president, and the great presidents tend to do big things.
And we are just getting started.
Cause you know that I'm a boss.
When Donald Trump moved to the White House for the first time back in January 2017, he came without a real understanding of the machinery he was put in charge of. Now, though, 8 years on, things are very different.
Well, we're very experienced now. You would say nobody's ever had experience like I have.
And Donald Trump used that experience to form a radical plan.
America is back. Thank you so much.
Welcome you back to Pennsylvania.
Now, 100 days in, we're on one of the biggest roller coaster rides in human history, and no one is allowed to get off.
He wants to force the world to recognize him, and if he can't force the world to love him, he can force the world to pay attention to him and potentially even to fear him.
I got myself in a lot of trouble. I said it's my favorite word in the dictionary, the word tariff.
Rarely has one word caused so much fear and confusion, and it would define the first 100 days of this presidency.
My fellow Americans, this is Liberation Day.
Much of the world may be on a collision course with a recession.
Steep tariffs slapped on nearly every single foreign import into the US.
We came armed with a little smaller chart.
From the biggest powerhouses to the smallest of uninhabited islands.
We will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. In other words, they charge us, we charge them.
U.S. stocks are tumbling.
Investors telling me that their trust has been just completely eroded.
Global markets crashed under the weight of economic uncertainty.
As we come on the air, the ASX is again a sea of red. The Dow, the Nasdaq and the S&P all down. A $47 billion wipeout happening right now.
By increasing the cost of doing business around the world, President Trump pushed the global economy to the brink.
This is a changing and completely new world.
It is the American people who will pay the biggest price for these unjustified tariffs.
President Trump posted just a little while ago on social media, "Be cool. Everything is going to work out well."
Well, look, Trump has been obsessed with tariffs for decades, and he would say things like, well, we need to increase tariffs. So it is a genuine obsession of his, and he's following through. Certainly, it's not the craziest plan ever. I think it's a plan for the times. And of course, the political overlay is bringing jobs back to the US. It's been a very bad 25 years for manufacturing workers in the US, for the Rust Belt.
Jobs and factories will come roaring back into our country, and you see it happening already.
These are the strongest supporters of Donald Trump in these areas, and he's trying to give something back to them.
For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike.
The world needs shaking up. Look what happened with Biden for 4 years.
People were taking advantage of this country, and he's trying to straighten it out.
No one's had the balls to do it, and he's trying to.
But a week after Liberation Day and after a week of carnage on Wall Street, Trump finally blinked, slashing most tariffs down to a universal 10%.
The markets are up big time. President pausing tariffs for 90 days on trading partners that have not retaliated against the U.S.
A global reordering of trade, but yet he announced it on a tweet? WTF? Who's in charge?
They were getting yippy, you know? They were getting a little bit yippy, a little bit afraid.
Is there any economic method to what people are perceiving as madness around tariffs?
Well, it's the behavior of somebody who doesn't really understand the stakes of what he's doing. It's on, it's off, it's on in part, it's off in part. That's how he thinks. That's not a strategy, that's incoherent.
It was a back down of sorts, but still bad news for Australia.
We imported $3 billion of Australian beef from them just last year alone. They won't take any of our beef. They don't want it.
The administration's tariffs go against the basis of our two nations partnership. This is not the act of a friend.
Why did they get whacked in the first place?
It was a view backed by an ally in the US Congress.
We have a trade surplus with Australia. We have a free trade agreement. Why? They are an incredibly important national security partner. Why were they whacked with a tariff?
America has the best trade deal with Australia that it could have. No tariffs, no quotas, no barriers to investment. Yet he's slapping tariffs on us. And no doubt, you know, there are more to come. I think it's going to be a wild ride, and potentially a very costly and damaging one for Australia.
While Trump may have dealt us a bad hand, his deal for China was worse, and it erupted into a trade war between the world's mightiest superpowers.
And some breaking news coming in from Beijing now. The government is to raise additional tariffs on US goods to 125%.
Because I told them if you retaliate, we're going to double it. And that's what I did with China, because they did retaliate.
But the president might be about to undertake one of his biggest backdowns yet.
We're dealing with a lot of countries right now, and could be with China, but maybe we'll make a special, you know, a deal.
Well, a lot of it is bargaining. That's what Trump does, but it just shows he doesn't have an end state in mind. It's Trump being the center of attention, with everybody waiting with bated breath. What's the tariff policy today? That's the perfect Trump world.
In Trump's world, it's all about who's holding the cards. And right now, he says he is.
That's part of his brand. Trump's modus operandi is to exert power as much as he can. He's a bully.
And for 100 days, Trump has flexed his presidential power, from tariffs to settling old scores.
Given that Trump spent 4 years at Mar-a-Lago stewing about his grievances and his enemies, he and his aides spent 4 years planning what they would do when they came back.
How much of the way he's running the US government now is retribution?
I think retribution is a major element of what Trump wants out of a second term. He's a man who feels endlessly aggrieved by everybody.
I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution. How can I let this? You'll never take back our country with weakness. You have to show strength, and you have to be strong.
Trump's rage had been boiling over since losing the 2020 election. His vow to crush those he held responsible, the deep state establishment.
I think the bigger problem is the enemy from within.
Or, in other words, anyone who stands against him.
Do you plan to revoke the Secret Service protection?
Well, we have done that with many.
From political enemies old advisors to law firms who helped investigate Trump. No one was safe.
President Trump has revoked the security clearances of more than a dozen officials.
President Trump terminated the Secret Service detail for his own former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, who is facing death threats from Iran.
Ambassador Bolton, President Trump singled you out recently.
We're not going to have security on people for the rest of their lives. Why should we? I thought he was a very dumb person, but I used him well.
Your response to that?
Yeah, I wonder who hired that guy. This is a man who has no limit to how many grievances that he has.
Ambassador Bolton quit the first Trump administration over bitter foreign policy disputes, removing your security detail at a time when Iran had been making threats on your life. When you heard that, what was your response?
Well, I was surprised, but not entirely.
Do you worry about it?
Well, I do. I've made separate arrangements, obviously. It's not the Secret Service, but I do believe that the threat is real, and so I have to do what I can.
From day one, the campaign of revenge against his enemies and the world made it clear Trump 2.0 won't let anyone or anything stand in his way.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
Coming up,
This is an order creating and implementing the Department of Governmental Efficiency, known as DOGE.
his boldest power grabs so far.
He's a high IQ individual.
This is the chainsaw for bureaucracy. The Biden administration launched what you've called a war on showers. They had certain regulations that basically killed the water pressure of showers and other water appliances.
I like to take a nice shower to take care of my beautiful hair. I have to stand under the shower for 15 minutes till it gets wet. It comes out drip, drip, drip. It's ridiculous. We're getting rid of all of the cancer caused by the Biden administration.
Our country will be woke no longer.
Women's sports will be only for women. It's a ridiculous situation, so we're going back to plastic straws. What is this one?
Withdrawing from the World Health Organization, sir.
Ooh, that's a big one. Gonna drill, baby, drill.
The first couple of months of his term really been marked by just a blizzard of activity coming out of the White House.
Very proud of this Gulf of America. Isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that?
There is a flooding the zone aspect that I think he definitely has had.
When the new commander-in-chief ushered in his record-breaking blizzard of executive actions, he was flooding the zone. It's a tactic first introduced by Steve Bannon, the man many call the godfather of the MAGA movement.
I said, all we have to do is flood the zone. Every day we hit them with 3 things. They'll bite on one and we'll get all of our stuff done. Bang, bang, bang.
I just came here. I've been here for what, 15 minutes now?
It all left the media scrambling.
There is so much good news, so much winning out of the Trump White House right now that the mainstream legacy media can't keep up with it.
And they say if I press this, it's the end of the world.
Thought it was day 92. It turns out it's day 52, Rachel, and I'm exhausted.
Do you leave the Oval Office and scratch your head and go, where do I turn to from here?
Yeah, many nights.
According to Washington insiders, the flood the zone pace is designed to overwhelm the news cycle and deliver the most controversial plans for America fast.
He says so many things all at once that it's hard to sort of figure out which thing to focus on.
He'd said he'd get on with the job, and he is.
Yeah, and there's a sense, too, of he's got limited time.
This flurry of executive orders in the first 100 days of the Trump administration has changed people's lives, their livelihoods. It looks a lot more like authoritarianism than it does sort of a democratic federal order. And I think that's what Americans are sort of wrestling with right now. Is this just a stronger presidency, or is this a presidency so strong that it destroys the underlying American system?
And we're going to release our great hostages that didn't do, for the most part, they didn't do stuff wrong.
One controversial executive action pushed through early and fast, the granting of freedom to Trump's most diehard and dangerous supporters.
So this is January 6th. These are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
4 years of fighting, 4 years of struggling, and I'm finally free.
It was not a secret. That was something that he talked about during the campaign. But it was extraordinary that he did pardon them. And so it sort of set the tone, I think, for what his presidency was going to be about.
And the tone set for the first 100 days of Trump 2.0 was clear. Rewards flowed for those who fought for Trump and for the billionaire who bankrolled his comeback, Elon Musk.
Musk is not just the right-hand man of the president.
We have to get Elon with his boy.
But he is somebody who has both tremendous wealth and tremendous access to just about every single part of the federal government.
Go ahead.
Well, you're a supervillain. That's what a supervillain does.
Yeah. The chainsaw for bureaucracy. Chainsaw!
The bromance is still there?
Yeah. It's extraordinary and doesn't have many precedents, I don't think, in American politics, their close relationship and the amount of time that Elon Musk spends with President Trump.
He's become one of your best friends. He's working for free for you.
Well, I love the president. I just want to be clear about that.
You love the president.
I think President Trump is a good man.
That's nice the way he said that, you know? There's something nice about it.
Really is.
Elon Musk spent nearly $300 million helping Donald Trump return to the White House.
I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight.
A short walk from the White House is the Doge Nerve Center. It's here Musk's lieutenants are tasked with finding $2 trillion in government savings.
I call them high IQ individuals, and they are. They're very high IQ, and they're finding billions, and it will be hundreds of billions of dollars worth of fraud.
So far, Doge claims it's cut over $100 billion, including from education and environment sectors and international aid.
Notified every single government DEI officer that their job has been deleted. They're gone. They're fired. You're fired. Get out. You're fired.
Reducing government waste might seem like a good idea, but putting an unelected billionaire presidential advisor in charge of it and giving him seemingly unlimited access to the federal bureaucracy hasn't been applauded by everyone.
He can go in there and turn off a Social Security payment. He can turn off a payment to a U.S. aid organization. He can turn off a payment to the Australian government.
Historian Nicole Hemmer says handing an outsider absolute access has never been done before.
That kind of amorphous, ambiguous role with that level of unchecked, unregulated power, we haven't seen that in a president, much less someone who is the president's sidekick.
Elon can't do and won't do anything without our approval. Where we think there's a conflict or there's a problem, we won't let him go near it.
It's not an optional thing. It is an essential thing. That's the reason I'm here. I'm taking a lot of flack and getting a lot of death threats. They're like to stuck him up, you know.
We are here today because Elon Musk has bought our government.
The wave of anger became a tsunami, and the billionaires' companies took a direct hit.
The sell-off in Tesla shares has been sharp and swift.
Tonight, authorities investigating what they're calling a targeted attack on a Tesla repair center in Las Vegas.
Guys, you know, this is
insane. Like they're totally gone psycho.
This man has devoted his energy and his life to doing this. I think he's been treated very unfairly by a very small group of people.
There's been sort of an embrace and an attempt to sort of boost Elon Musk and boost his companies in response to that. So I think Elon Musk has the full support of the White House, you know, at the moment.
I don't need Elon for anything other than I happen to like him. But I'm telling you, this guy did a fantastic job.
They say that they've found, you know, millions of dollars of payments going to people aged over 100, 120, 130. That does seem wrong. And it wouldn't have happened without this Doge phenomenon. So there is some progress being made.
Based in Washington, D.C. for the last 4 years, economist Adam Crichton says these Doge cuts are exactly what the Trump faithful ordered.
The US aid budget, for instance, so this is an agency that's been shut down, I believe, by Trump completely, or at least 90% of its funding has been slashed. And it turned out, thanks to Doge's efforts, that this agency was basically 90% funding propaganda just around the world in other countries. They see all this waste, and they think, what on earth is going on? And they love seeing it being slashed. So although it's certainly upset the media and political class, it's certainly made his supporters very happy.
Well, we're in a very good mood. We just had the highest poll numbers I've ever had. Ever.
And buoyed by success at home, Trump pulled out his next power play.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
Coming up, blowing up the old world order.
The thing about Trump is that he says the quiet bits out loud.
I don't think he'd be a tough guy without the United States.
It is very dangerous to write him off.
The Oval Office has never seen televised scenes like these.
Your country's in big trouble. You're gambling with the lives of millions of people. You're gambling with World War III. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin.
Tensions were at an all-time high at this much-anticipated face-to-face meeting. Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky, a guest of Donald Trump and his Vice President, J.D. Vance.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Well, it was a disaster. Trump has burned through decades of goodwill, trust, and reliance that America has built up over the years. He doesn't understand the stability that the alliance structure led by the United States created for the world. We've lost a lot just in the first 100 days.
This is going to be great television, I will say that.
It's a very sad day and an embarrassment for the United States.
I have never been more proud of the president.
He's looking for something that I'm not looking for. He's looking to go on and fight, fight, fight.
Americans wanted a strong man. They wanted strong leadership, and he offered that.
Former Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull negotiated with Donald Trump during his first term in office. He believes it's in Australia's best interests to watch how the president treats other countries.
There is a risk that everyone just keeps their heads down and, you know, tries to sort of suck up or hope they're not noticed.
We're not going to let people take advantage of us anymore.
Like it or not, for the last 80 years, the United States has played a key role in policing the world. But in the blur of the first 100 days of Donald Trump's second term, that function has changed. Under his America First foreign policy, maintaining traditional alliances now seems far less important than bringing old enemies in from the cold.
They respect me. Let me tell you, Putin went through a hell of a lot with me.
Well, he loves Putin, right? So he loves Putin. He trusts Putin, and he thinks Putin trusts him. I think probably it's because he'd like to be Putin. He'd like to have absolutely unlimited power, the ability to do whatever you like.
America has stood shoulder to shoulder with Ukraine in its 3-year battle against Russia and Vladimir Putin. But now, this theatre of war is at the very heart of Donald Trump's vision for a brand new world order.
Look, we are in a situation where America's administration clearly shares more political values with Putin than it does with us.
I find that in terms of getting a final settlement, it may be easier dealing with Russia, which is surprising because they have all the cards. I mean, they're bombing the hell out of them right now.
Basically, Trump has done a 180 to move the U.S. position to be closely aligned with the Kremlin. Trump thinks Putin is his friend, and he thinks Trump is an easy mark that he can use his KGB skills against, and which he has, in the first 100 days, used to great advantage.
Well, I am a nationalist, but I'm a nationalist for the United States, not for anybody else. And it's interesting because there's nobody been tougher on Russia than me.
And now he's pressuring NATO, the post-World War II defence alliance, insisting European members pay more or else.
Well, I think it's common sense, right? If they don't pay, I'm not going to defend them. No, I'm not going to defend them. I got into a lot of heat when I said that. You said, oh, he's violating NATO.
The people that support Donald Trump are sick of paying for the defence of other countries through their taxes. And that is why you're seeing this pullback from Europe, I believe, and this frustration that many European countries are not spending enough on their defence. So, look, I think there is going to be a big change there, but maybe it's a breath of fresh air that the world needs, a dose of realism.
I mean, who's to say if we needed the support of the United States, he may not do to us what he's done to Ukraine. Say, I want to have half of your mineral resources.
Malcolm Turnbull says as America resets its alliances in the world, it's high time Australia does the same.
The conclusion is that allies of the United States have to do more to defend themselves, full stop.
One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada.
The president also made clear he has no trouble making his mark on the world map by taking over his northern ally.
What I'd like to see, Canada become our 51st state.
Rebuilding the Gaza Strip.
Donald's coming to set you free.
I don't want to be cute, I don't want to be a wise guy, but the Riviera of the Middle East, this could be so magnificent.
How we doing? It's cold as shit here.
And occupying Greenland.
We really need Greenland for national security. It's very important.
Let me put it in words you might understand. Mr. Trump, f off.
Initially, some of these things seemed like a laugh line, you know, where he would talk about Canada being the 51st state. And I think there was an instinct of like, oh, he's not serious. But the more he talks about it, the more serious he seems to be.
I would like to ask Secretary Hegseth, who's doing a fantastic job.
It's an inexperienced new foreign policy team with their hands on the wheel of world peace.
I think that a lot of people are concerned that a lot of these private citizens that have come in to help Trump don't have a clue what security concerns are. And we've seen evidence that even Trump's senior officials, in the case of Yemen, don't seem to know what classification means.
This just in, editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, says he was accidentally texted war plans.
And I think that kind of lax attitude, unfortunately, seems to permeate the early days of a second Trump term.
But Donald Trump and his team are going to have to muscle up to deal with a far greater problem. Is China the biggest national security challenge that President Donald Trump should have in this term?
I think China remains the biggest threat to the West as a whole in the 21st century.
China has launched large-scale war exercises around the self-ruled island of Taiwan. There's been a worrying development over the Chinese warships off Australia's east coast.
Is he paying enough attention at the moment to the national security challenge that China poses?
I don't think he is. I think what he really wants is the biggest trade deal in history between the U.S. and China. And despite the tariffs that have been put on in the first 100 days already between the U.S. and China, I think that remains Trump's main objective.
I think we're going to make a very good deal with China.
To help deter China, the US signed up to the $360 billion AUKUS vision to eventually arm Australia with nuclear-powered submarines. Do you know what the AUKUS alliance is, sir? But now a serious question is being asked. Can our great friend really be trusted?
Do you fully support it?
Do you think Donald Trump will stick to the AUKUS alliance?
I would be worried that he won't.
Why?
Because he's not thinking very coherently about how to deal with the China threat.
I have a great relationship with President Xi.
But you've spoken.
It was hurt because of COVID.
Thank you, Mr.
That's why I don't call it the China virus anymore.
Despite flexing his mighty power, though, not everything is coming up Trump's. Up next, inside America's borders, the pushback begins.
We will win because evil will never prevail. Let's keep fighting.
America's decline is over. We will begin the revolution of common sense.
President Trump's first 100 days has exceeded the wildest dreams of his supporters.
You rocked it, Mr. President. We're with you, 100%. Crushed.
This moment that we're in, y'all, it demands more than outrage. It demands action.
And met the darkest nightmares of his critics.
It is what is being called the Not My President's Day.
Hands up! Hands up! We will win because evil will never prevail. Let's keep fighting.
For those who disagree with Trump's policy agenda, the Supreme Court is the last hope. Of course, it's stacked with conservative-leaning judges, a number of them Trump appointees. But even still, the lawsuits are piling up, with claims the president is wielding far more power than the Constitution allows. Donald Trump would believe, even expect, the court to back him. But what happens if it doesn't?
The Trump administration is breaking the boundaries with the courts, is denying and resisting and refusing to follow court orders.
A dramatic showdown between the White House and the federal courts.
The Trump administration deported hundreds of Venezuelans that it says are gang members, despite a judge's order to turn the flights around.
We have rogue judges that are destroying our country.
And in a major turning point in the first 100 days, the Supreme Court ruled his administration must facilitate the return of wrongfully deported man Abrego Garcia from El Salvador.
I will not stop fighting until I see my husband alive.
But President Trump is refusing to bring him back.
Abrego Garcia will never be a Maryland father. He will never live in the United States of America again.
This time around, Trump has a grip on Congress, and he's trying to have a grip on the courts as well, you know, which creates an extraordinary amount of power in one person and one executive.
It's not the America the founding fathers had in mind.
No, I mean, much of America has been about diverging views, vigorous debate on policies, a check on power. So far, there's not much of a check on Donald Trump's power. So he's trying to sort of gauge how much he can do, how far the limits are that he can take his executive powers in some of these.
Alongside the courts, the Democrats should be a check on the powers of the president. But so far, they've been in no position to hold him back.
Democrats have been cowed by his dominance, and they have not yet reassembled to figure out how they propose any alternative. But I think that will come at some point over the next 4 years, and you'll have an alternative vision that they try to have for the country. And I think that there will be some clashes for sure to come.
No clash. I was there. You're just a troublemaker.
To date, some of Trump's biggest clashes have been with the press.
His ability to manipulate the media was an enormous source of political power for him. And so coming into this second Trump administration, he has taken that aggressiveness toward journalists to a new level.
And I believe that CNN and MSDNC, who literally write 97.6% bad about me are political arms of the Democrat Party.
Obviously, you're concerned.
So it was out with some members of the traditional press.
Officials banned Associated Press reporters from covering events in the White House. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says it's because the AP has declined to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America.
It is a fact that the body of water off the coast of Louisiana is called the Gulf of America.
Who are you with? Who are you with? Oh, no wonder. That's enough. NBC.
I truly feel like Donald Trump's going to be the best person for this country in the next 4 years.
But it was a warm welcome for new media.
Happy days are almost here again. I will be in Washington, D.C. live for the inauguration.
Especially anyone prepared to pump out the president's lines.
The question is, do you think they're out of touch with Americans demanding action on our border crisis?
The media out of touch? I think the media certainly is out of touch.
So suddenly you have basically propaganda outlets who are asking the questions at press conferences, who have front row seats to everything that the president is doing. And he understands that controlling the media environment is a key to consolidating his power.
We see his coverage on the television, his exchanges in the Oval Office. You've worked in the White House for years now. What's he like as a person to deal with?
He will tell you what he thinks, you know, and he'll push back against certain questions, and he'll get aggravated sometimes. But he engages with the media more than any president I've had experience of covering.
You people requested. I'm always available, unlike Biden. Think Biden would do an interview at 2 in the morning?
And it works, too. The television stations in America are filled with Donald Trump. Up one day, down the next, but always with something to say.
We're landing right now. Sit down, I don't want you to get hurt.
If he could be on TV 16 hours a day, I think he'd be delighted.
Trump TV is back.
It is, for 4 years.
And now, 100 days into Trump TV, it's hard to imagine that its star will ever be ready to walk away from the show the whole world is watching.
He is one of the most brilliant communicators of our ages.
Coming up, what surprises does Trump still have up his sleeve?
The first question is, does Donald Trump leave office in 2028?
4 more years.
What a moment here inside Madison Square Garden as the president Donald Trump feels the love.
In Trump's arena, he is always a winner. His adoring fans see him as the man in their corner, fighting just for them.
This man has literally sacrificed everything for us. He got shot in the head, a second assassination attempt. He's a billionaire. He doesn't need to do this. He's doing this to protect all of us.
A man like Trump comes along only once or twice in a country's history.
Only 100 days in, the question is, who carries Donald Trump's vision for America forward beyond this already extraordinary 4-year term?
We want Trump in 28.
4 more years. It will be the greatest honor of my life to serve not once, but twice, or 3 times, or 4 times now. Headlines.
I'm not ruling it out. No, I think it's entirely possible that Donald Trump could try to run for a 3rd term. Does Donald Trump leave office in 2028? We don't actually know. I think more likely than not he will, but the fact that we don't know is already a sign that there's a real problem that we're facing as we move toward the end of Donald Trump's 2nd term.
I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed to run again?
To be clear, as it stands now, the answer is no. Donald Trump cannot run for a 3rd term. The Constitution says no person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. But Donald Trump has made an art out of bending, even often breaking the rules. So, who's to say he couldn't engineer it to have the Constitution rewritten?
President Trump is going to run for a third term, and President Trump is going to be elected again on the afternoon of January 20th of 2029. He's going to be President of the United States.
So many people are saying, you've got to run again. They love the job window. Most importantly, they love the job window.
He likes saying these things just to send the media into a tiz, to send them wild. He likes trolling them, basically.
They do say there's a way you can do it, but
he does continue to joke about a third term. So it's hard to tell how much of that is actually legitimate and that he will make some sort of attempt, which would trigger all kinds of legal challenges and reasons to not allow him to run again.
He'd be 82.
He'd be 82, yeah.
Over the course of the next 3 or 4 years, we're going to hear lots of other names, but that will all happen against the backdrop of, does Donald Trump leave office, and how much control does he have over the Republican Party?
Do you view Vice President J.D. Vance as your successor, the Republican nominee in 2028?
No, but he's very capable. I mean, I don't think that I think you have a lot of very capable people. So far, I think he's doing a fantastic job. It's too early. We're just starting.
It's clear Vice President J.D. Vance has his eyes on the prize.
Is J.D. the man to continue the MAGA agenda?
Well, look, man, I really am just not focused on politics. I'm not focused on the midterm elections in 2026, much less the presidential election in 2028. When we get to that point, I'll talk to the president. We'll figure out what we want to do.
I think it's going to be a vigorous fight probably on the Republican side, and I would imagine that Trump will sort of relish the idea of different people competing to be his most worthy successor.
Trump TV is a 4-year episode of The Apprentice.
yeah, and you know, maybe somebody will get fired at the end. Who knows?
I think the president has actually been quite clear about what he wants to accomplish. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
So he's been an extraordinary attack dog for Trump. He's like the intellectual Trump, I would say. He's a lot more eloquent, he's a lot more disciplined. So the big question is for the world is this Trump phenomenon permanent or not? So does J.D. Vance succeed Trump? Then yes, maybe it's permanent.
Does that mean I'm royalty? You are royalty.
But if Donald J. Trump is king, it stands that Donald Trump Jr. is MAGA's crown prince.
You lie about me that way, I'll fight. That's who I am. That's who my father is. Doesn't mean it has to be that way.
Somebody who, you know, maybe not all Americans know a ton about, might not be hugely visible on the world stage, but has the branding.
Together, we will make America great once again. Thank you.
Who could be seen as an avatar for Donald Trump, or just like a stand-in for Donald Trump. That Donald Trump might not be the actual president, but he could be the man behind the curtain, the one actually sitting on the throne.
100 days down means there's 1,361 to go in this presidential term. When it comes to reshaping America and the world, Donald Trump has already succeeded. The question remains, though, for better or for worse.
We got a long time to go. We have a long time. You know, we have almost 4 years to go. And that's a long time.
I think we should use the Trump phenomenon as a wake-up call for ourselves to maybe spend more on our own defense and to be a little bit more skeptical and cynical about the world, which I think in reality was always the way the world operated, and Trump is just reminding everyone that that's the truth.
The golden age of America, it's coming back. We're going to come back very strongly.
Look, he is smart. He is one of the most brilliant communicators of our ages. But, you know, his economic policies are really dangerous in the sense that I think they'll do a lot of harm to the world economy and indeed to ours. We are back in a might is right world. There's virtually nobody alive in Australia that has actually been around when a world was like that.
The United Kingdom is a wonderful country that I know very well.
All of those alliances that had been part of the world order, they're already broken. They're not going to be rebuilt over the next 4 years. It's changed. And whoever comes next will be in a different kind of office.
Mr. Speaker, the President of the United States.
I think the historical verdict on Trump will be devastating.
Why?
It's rare to see one person being so destructive. He's more like a vandal warlord than a constructive president. And I think that's what history will judge him on very severely.
It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.